You know, a lot of historians, I think, speak to the class of 1965 in Indianapolis as being a particularly stellar one. But I want to remind you that the class of 1963 rookies were this guy, Jim Clark, Bobby Unser, and I believe it was Art Malone and Al Miller. But you, Bobby, and Jim Clark are rookies. Holy cow. What was that like? What was it like going to the Speedway and thinking, I got a chance to make it?
Well, going to the Speedway, they have so many rules. You know, as a rookie, you could only use half of the racetrack, the bottom half of the track, to let the veterans get by on the outside. And I got through 3 phases of my test, was in the 4th phase, and the 4th phase they let you use all the racetrack. Isn't that something? Anyway, I was out in the outline and I got it in a little high and I was just a little too far off the pole, and I cranked her left and spun, but it didn't hit anything. Well, they got me back to the thing, and Harlan Fangler said, you sit down and think about it and you finish your test tomorrow. Well,
Harlan wasn't always that charitable.
huh?
Harlan wasn't always that charitable.
Oh, no, a little red hat with a snap rim. Anyway, it was, I got a chance to go out the next day, and that was when I was going back to the garage area through Gasoline Alley, and there used to be Firestone on one side where they checked your tires, and then there was a little first aid station. Well, Betty was standing and talking to friends. I didn't know she was a registered nurse. And so, first words I ever said to Betty were, haven't I seen you someplace before?
You're quite the man with words.
Yeah. But anyway, I asked her if I could take her to dinner, and she said, no, I had previous plans. I found out later that she wanted to find out if I was married or not. Some of them were, can you imagine that? But anyway, I did take her out the next night. She found out I was single. And anyway, I took her out to dinner, and she brought one of her nurse friends with her, so I had to buy them both dinner.
But didn't one of your pals sort of prank you over the PA system?
Yeah, that was Bobby Marshman. Marshman and Chuck Hulse. The day Betty brought her parents to the track, they sat up in the tower terrace up at the very far corner overlooking the garage area. You could hear, the garage area, the PA system, everything. And so her dad really wasn't sure that I wasn't married, for some reason. But anyway, Betty and I are up there, and she introduces me to her mom and dad and her little brother and her sister. And I'm standing there and I'm looking right at her father when the PA system in the garage area says, Johnny Rutherford, meet your wife and children in the garage area. I looked at Betty and she looked at me and we laughed, and I would give anything if I had a picture of her dad's expression. When you heard that. And anyway, we stepped up, looked over, and Marshman and Hulse were nearly rolling on the ground laughing. They got me really good.
It's funny because there's a TQ Midget organization that's been around in Indiana really for years, but The official one has been around since 1961. They race every year in Oscar at the fairgrounds there. And every time I go there, I think Betty Rutherford is from Little Osgood, Indiana.
Osgood, Indiana.
Yeah, married into Napoleon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what a year! You make the Indianapolis 500 and you meet Betty. Now that is a red letter year. Would you agree?
It was for sure.
Now I want to back up a second because I think sometimes this gets forgotten about your literally spectacular